Hello everyone and welcome to this lesson on understanding pointers in Golang. Pointers are a really important concept in every programming language, but sometimes it's a bit hard to understand the difference between a pointer and a variable and understand what is going on when we're using pointers. So we will jump right into an example to illustrate this, and hopefully you will get a better understanding. So I will start by creating a variable called my var of type string, and I will assign a value original message to it. Okay, and then I will create, so this is a normal variable, you know, the type is string and it will hold a string value, nothing fancy there. But then I want to create a pointer. And what's a pointer? Pointer is a variable that holds the address of a value. Okay, so this variable right here holds the value itself, but the pointer holds the address of that value, and we will see that in a minute. I will create a pointer by saying var, and I will call this ptr, and this will be a pointer to a string. And how we create pointers in Golang, by placing a star or an asterisk before the type that we want to point to. So in this case, I'm creating a pointer to a string. So this variable right here will hold not a string itself, but the address of a value of type string. Okay, and we will assign an initial value, which will be the address of my variable here, okay, which is a string. So how do we get the address of a variable in Golang? By placing an ampersand before the name of the variable. Okay, so quick review on this line is that we are creating a variable called ptr, which is type pointer to a string. It will hold an address to a string, and we are assigning the address of the variable myVar, which is itself a string. Okay, so what is going on here? We can understand that better if we use this table that I've created. And this is kind of simulating how Golang allocates memory when we create variables. So this first line will create a record here in this table, and we basically have the name of the variable, the type, the address, that is the address of memory where the value is, or the value sits, and then the value itself. Okay, so this first line right here will create a variable of name myVar. The type will be string. The address will be something like 0x001, an hexadecimal code that Golang uses to represent memory addresses. And then the value itself would be the value that we assign to it, the string itself, which is original message. Okay, so pretty easy, pretty straightforward. But what happens with the next line? We're creating a new variable called ptr. This is the name of the variable, and the type of this variable is pointer to string. Golang will assign a new address for this variable, which will be something like 002, and its value would be the address of the variable called myVar. So what's the address of my var? The address of my var is this value right here. Okay, so you can see that a pointer has its own memory address, but it holds another memory address as its value. Okay, so that's what pointers are for. That's the purpose of pointers. So you can see that these two values are actually the same. So I will color them to see that clearly. And now we can print the value of these two variables to see the differences and also the types of them. So we can do font printf, and I will print value of my var. And for printing the value, I will use the verb %b, and I will place my var there. And I will do the same for the pointer ptr. We'll add some spaces to line that up, and this is ptr. And I will do the same, but to print the types. to see the difference. Okay, sorry, type. For printing the type, I use the var %t. And if we run this, you'll see that the value of my var is the original message that we assigned to it, as we have represented here in our table. The value of ptr is the address where this variable sits, or where this value actually sits, which is what we represented here too. And the types of those variables are the types that we assign, right? My var is type string, and ptr is type pointer to string. Okay, so that's basically what happens with pointers and in terms of memory allocation. What else we can do with pointers? We can access to the value the pointer is pointing to, and we can modify whatever value is sitting in the address that that pointer is pointing to. Okay, so how we do that? We can think that it's as easy as saying pointer equals to, and then a new value. But maybe you can guess what is going to happen here. We are assigning a type which is not, we are assigning a value which is not of the correct type for this variable, right? Because this is a string, and we have in this side of the equal, we have a pointer to a string. So if we run this, Golang will be pretty explicit about the error. It will say, we cannot use this, which is a string, as type pointer to a string, okay? So how do we access to the place of memory that this pointer is pointing to? In other words, how do we access to whatever is sitting on this memory address, which is our original message? Again, by placing an asterisk or a star before the name of the pointer. This is called dereferencing the pointer, okay? So we're saying, go to this pointer and go to whatever is sitting in the memory address this pointer holds, and then assign this new value. So we will go to our pointer, and then we know that it holds a memory address, and by placing the asterisk there, we are dereferencing it, so we are traveling to this value, and we are assigning the new value right there. So if we go again and print the values of those variables again, and I will print a line there to have more space. Print line. You can see that my var has a new value, even though we didn't touch it directly, but we change its value, or the value that is sitting on the memory address of my var, through the pointer, okay? So the new value of my var is ABC, and the value of pointer is actually the same. You can see that this value never changed because is the memory address that we have since the beginning. And one last thing that I would like to do is to actually print this address right here for you to see that actually pointers have its own address, and then they hold another address as their value. So for that, we will say another printf, and I will say address of ptr, and I will print a value. And how do we get the address of a variable? Again, by placing an ampersand before the name of the variable. Even though this is a pointer, the ampersand helps us to get the address of that pointer, okay? So as you can see, this value is different than this one because this is the address of the pointer itself, while this is the address that the pointer is holding as its value right here. That's a simple example of what is going on with pointers in Golang. Hope you find it useful.